All right, we are live.
Welcome to the Ricketts Springs Special Workshop on Sales Tax Increase Proposal. I'm Steve Holyfield, Mayor Pro Tem, Acting Mayor right now. And this is not a meeting. We will not be voting on anything. This is just discussion, open discussion about the sales tax increase. And we won't even do roll call. We'll just let Michael take it over.
Okay, so we passed out at the last meeting, and if you don't have it, I brought you another one, David. You got yours. There's Rochelle
I
one.
did not bring mine.
Here's Terry one.
Thank you.
So in looking at our sales tax, the possibility of getting a sales tax on the ballot, kind of our first step is we're going to look at what percentage increase we're going to ask for. So this that I handed out to you is just showing that if we asked, based upon our 2025 results on sales tax collected, if we ask for 0.25% to go to the wastewater treatment or to the water department, it would be about $427,000 is what it would generate annually. 0.5% would generate about $855,000 annually. 0.75 would generate $1.283 million, and then 1% would generate about $1.7 million. I also put down here of what that would equate to. You see our current tax rate is 9.375. If we raised it 1%, this is on retail, our tax rate would be 10.375. Then if we did the 0.75, it would be 10.125. 0.5% would bring it to 9.875, and a 0.25 would bring it to 9.625%. So this is just kind of a discussion on where we think we need to land on this sales tax so that we can start getting an ordinance together looking to put it on the ballot for November.
Okay?
Terry?
Yeah, to get the ball rolling, I believe that we ought to go for a full 1%. My reason for that is things go up so quickly that it's, if, a 10-year deal, or 20-year, however long we, if we're going to do a sunset or just enact it, that's another thing we got to look at too. But it just things go up so fast, and you just take the fees for the engineers. It's god awful. It's so and unfortunately, you can't do the project without them. I mean, you can't just send a company in there and say, "Hey, build this." You got it all has to be done. The requirements are so stringent from the state and the feds. So I think we need to allocate a whole penny, just so we can try and keep our head above, not necessarily above water, that's not the right term, but to stay ahead of the game. And I think it would be advantageous for us to do that now, so we can get ahead and stay ahead of the game, yes. And hopefully, as we talked at the meeting the other night, is that in so doing, that maybe we can redo the water study, and when things get done, and drop our rates for our customers. That, it's a big hope, but I can see that as a possibility, and also doing away with the I&I fund.
Yeah. So one thing, I did go back and look at the rate study, since we've kind of talked about the I&I so much. I wanted to go back and make sure that we were correct on what we'd been saying. When they did the rate study, they did leave the I&I in there. So they weren't giving us rates to where we took I&I away. So by passing this tax, then that would make that an option to where that could go away. We could take that away then at that point. So yeah, that would help with that. Kind of, if you're looking at what this money is going to be used for, the $6 million loan that we're talking about, that we're working towards now, this would be outside of that, and it would help with future phases of repairs at the water department, and it would also look at infrastructure items that could be fixed. So probably what we would do is we would probably, once we get this passed, we would do a bond so that we could get a big chunk of the money to do what we needed to do and do those repairs, and we could go into that phase 2 of the things at the water department. We are talking to a organization right now called Progressive Solutions, and they come in and they map your city, or they look at your city, and they are a lot about the infrastructure, not necessarily the water plant, sewer plant or anything. They're more about the pipes and things like that. And they work close with the guys in Little Rock on the loans to where, they're 80-20, where we're 20%, they're 80%. Funding, grants, things like that. So we are going to get some information from them going forward on the specific amount of the infrastructure for like sewer pipes, water pipes, things like that. So we have that working also. But this would be something that would be in addition to that, that would help with big repairs, things that we have, improvements that we need to make. And that it would be 100% dedicated to the water department. None of it would go anywhere else. It would, if we bond, portion of it will pay the bond payment. The rest of it will go into reserve for any improvements that we do or any big repairs that we have to do or anything like that. So,
I have a couple of questions. First of all, was the public notified of the meeting today, of the workshop today?
yes.
How were they notified?
Through our regular channels of notification. Now, what we are going to do, since you have a workshop and the public is not, they don't speak at the workshop, what this workshop to do is kind of just to fill out what the council's direction wants to go. And then once we figure out what council wants to do, then we'll have a public hearing to where they can actually come in and voice their concerns or their ideas or whatever.
Okay, that was my second question.
Yes.
I just think they should be involved at every single turn.
There are two different things at workshops. Workshops are just closed table.
Yes.
And so that's why we'll have this to just kind of find out the direction of how we want to go. And then we'll have that public hearing.
Okay, and just to be clear, this 0.25 or 1%, whatever we decide, is strictly for water and wastewater.
Yes.
Nothing else.
Nothing
no
else.
General fund, streets, no parks.
No.
Okay.
Nothing else. And what we will do is we will be hiring a bond counsel, and it's like a law firm that will write this, not a bond. They will write this ordinance for us to make sure that all of that wording and everything is in there, so that with the clauses, sunset clauses, all that kind of stuff, because those ordinances are pretty gigantic, and so we will do that so that we have everything. But yes, it's going to be strictly for water, wastewater.
Okay, and the plan is, well, I know you were talking about long range and other phases of wastewater and water, which I understand it's a constant thing. So the plan, let's say we go with 1%, or we suggest 1% to the remainder of the council. The plan is that in 6 years, according to your numbers, we should have the $6 million loan essentially paid off.
No, none of this money will go towards paying that loan off. You can't use this sales tax to pay that debt.
Why not?
We'd have to get the legal in on that to explain it, but that's just the way that they're set up. So it can't go in to pay off that debt. It would go in to pay off the normal operations and things of the wastewater treatment plant.
Rochelle or Terry, do you know why we wouldn't be able to use that money to pay off the loan?
I think that's a legal question.
Okay.
I think
I
that's
didn't
a
know if
legal
you knew of
question.
something that I
Yeah.
didn't, and, okay.
No, I mean, I didn't, I didn't necessarily understand that was the case, but maybe it is. I know that it's repayment is structured into the water bill when you do your water study. That, you know, what you can manage, and the engineers, when McLeod put this all together, it was all figured in there, and that, you know, and that we could cover that, you know, through the water bills. I mean, that's what has always been required by the state anyway, that, you know, you had to, and then you had to be, you know, have a reserve fund and all that, and which we've always never have missed a payment.
Right.
But we've always struggled trying to keep any kind of extra money in there. We've never been good at that, but it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to know, I guess, what the rationale is behind passing, if this tax is passed, why it would not be able to be used for its intended purpose.
Well,
It's a little
there is an intended
murky.
purpose, and it is what Michael's talking about is for water lines, additional stuff at the sewer plant, because it's not going to be complete. It's, you know, there's all kinds of things. We've got, you know, there's, like you've heard Simon talk about, there's some places that there's 3 and 4 service lines that are, you know, transferring water that nobody even knows where they're all at.
I
And
think, Terry,
going to
maybe-
different places, you know, to be consolidating all that kind of stuff and trying to get your infrastructure
Yeah,
replaced. And
I don't know if I made myself
for the next
clear,
50 years.
but I just want to clarify what I meant, because I don't think I did. I guess my question is, I just want to know the specifics behind why we can't use the tax to pay for any water or wastewater treatment that needs to be done. Infrastructure, whether it's mapping lines, whatever. In my head right now, I don't understand why we're going to pass a 1% tax and then can't use that money to pay for this loan or help pay for this loan.
Well, one, that's two different things. One, the loan is for, the $6 million loan is for the upgrades and the things that need to be done at the wastewater treatment plant. So that's a separate issue. This tax is going to be able to pay, like Terry's talking about ongoing things that are happening in the future, big issues that we have. If we had this tax in place, we probably wouldn't have to be doing this $6 million loan. But right now, without the tax, what you're doing is you're going to be relying on the money that is generated from the water bills to pay for their ongoing operations, the repairs that have to be done, and the payment on this loan, okay? So if you pass this tax and you have this extra income, then that tax can help with their ongoing operations so that it frees up more money to pay their bond pay or their loan payment. So it's if you don't have the tax, then they're going to have to pay for it out of everything that they have coming in.
Right.
I'll check on it for sure. I'm pretty sure that we can't use it to pay the tax. We can't use that money to pay the loan payment back, but I will check on that. And
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm
make
just
sure.
throwing that question out there.
David, sometimes if you think back, and my memory's not as good as it used to be, but back when the engineers first talked about this, and you know, they talk like, you know, you've got $30 million worth of stuff really that needs to be done, and you know, and $10 million that you could do real easily. Well, when we get $6.5 million done on the sewer plant, there's still a lot of stuff down there that's not covered that would not hurt us to go ahead and implement
Yeah.
and, right away, as well as the transmission line, so.
The phase two of that, the first phase of it was like $6.5 million. Phase two of it was like $4.5 million. Zane and them felt like they could get a grant for that. They applied for the grant and they didn't get the grant for the $4.5 million. So this probably what we would do is this 1%, if the 1% sales tax, that would give us, we would have our bond people run a bond and see how much we could get on a bond. So then we would get that amount, to do that phase two with, and then, go forward. So
Yeah.
We can bond for more than what we need.
Yes.
Say we need that $4.5 million, we do a $10 million bond.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And we don't pay interest on it until we use
I
it.
mean, I'm absolutely not against positioning, and to use Rochelle's words, the vision of what our sewer system and water system and infrastructure needs to be. That's the vision we want, is everything to run perfectly. And I know it's going to cost 30 million plus over the course of 10 years, if not a lot more than that. My concern is, and I'm sure you've all seen it, especially on Facebook, people posting copies of their water bills, that it's doubled and sometimes more. And I get a lot of phone calls about that. What are you going to do about my water bill? So I do think that we need to be able to address dropping off that I&I. We've got to do something.
Yeah,
Well-
David, I think, sorry,
go ahead.
if you don't mind, I think what you could say to people who are calling you about that is not the last increase
Oh,
you've
yeah,
seen to
that's
your
what
bill.
I've been saying. Yeah.
We have had to adopt, a phase, we have to
Yeah.
phase in several increases in order to pay for the things that we know we absolutely have
Yeah.
to do for the system. So in fact, this option takes that pressure off of our community and disperses it across everyone who purchases here, which in the summertime, we know are people that put pressure on the same system, and now they're going to have to also, through sales tax, contribute to the repair of that system.
Yes.
So in essence, when someone says that, I think you could say, we absolutely hate that, these bills are having to increase for you. Here is why we're proposing the sales tax and bond issue, so that
And
people
that's the
who
way I
visit
explain
here
it.
have to pay also.
Yeah, and that's the way I am explaining it to the people that at least reach out to me. I don't know who else is being reached
Yeah.
out to or not. But what I want to say is that, and Rochelle brings a very good point, is how we educate our residents on why this is happening and why it has to happen. I don't think anybody in this table disagrees that it has to happen. Otherwise, we have no water treatment, we have no wastewater treatment. I just think that we do need to at least give them something, drop the I&I, do something. I mean, my business's water bills went up by over $1,000. So I definitely feel the pain in adding 1% sales tax.
I'm getting those calls too,
Yeah.
on the water bills.
And I'm trying my best to explain it, but I'm also very biased because I know that it has to be done.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it is, but it does. The state's requiring it. But what this will do is this will hopefully, with another rate study, help us reduce rates. But what it will do is it will certainly help alleviate future increases. That it will do.
Well,
I think we need
I
to
personally
absolutely
think
address
if we're going to sell this to the public, you're going to have something solid. This is going to pay for this. They're not going to buy it if you're going to say this generally will pay for stuff in the future.
Yeah.
And, but we can't really say what yet. But if you don't say this 1% is going to pay for, so they can see what their money's going to be used for, nobody's going to vote for this. I mean, it's not going to happen.
One thing I'd like to back up and say, when you see people or when people contact you about saying their water bills doubled, refer them to us to look at their bills, because water bills didn't double. And I've seen the...
Well, I'm not making it up.
I've seen the chatter on Facebook too, and I've went and checked those bills, and they're not doubling. So if those people will contact us and let us look at their bill and figure out what's going on, I did an analysis on bills that were prior to our increase and after our increase, and someone who uses about 1,000 gallons of water, their bill went from $62 to $68. For somebody who uses about 1,500 gallons, their bill went from $62 to $69. 2,500 went from $77 to $85. 3,400 went from $93 to $109. 41 to 4,200 went from, it's on the next page, 126 to 142. 7,500 gallons went from 190 to 247.
20%.
Yeah,
basically.
29,000 gallons went from 860 to 1,000, and 50,000 gallons went to, or is it 50? It went from 9,000 to 11,000. So our higher usage ones are bigger meters. Their bills are going up a lot more. But in a standard bill, and that's including in their sani fee, their sanitation, their taxes, everything in it. So if their bill is actually doubling, then there's going to be maybe something wrong with their bill, something wrong with their meter, or something like that. So we need to look at those. And we're more than happy to look at them and
So
calculate.
please look at mine.
Do what?
Because I'm looking at it now, under your parameters that you set, and my bill was almost $2,400, and I get 5 bills for the hotel.
Okay.
One of those meters is almost $23.94.
Okay. So is that your
And that's
bigger
almost
meter?
double. Yes.
Yeah, so the bigger meters are going up because that was the goal of the bigger meters are technically for the hotels mostly. And so we wanted to put more expense on the hotel.
Let me back up.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's a bigger meter.
Yeah.
Because we have 5 meters, like I said, on the property, so I don't know what's doing what.
Okay. Are they the ones under your name, or are they under, what's that?
Under the business.
Business, okay.
Yeah.
Let me look at yours and see. But yeah, for the most part,
Unfortunately, the water, the usage is cut out of this picture.
I feel like that's a great point, though, for folks who
Yeah.
are feeling like their bill is increased more than
Let us
what's been
explain it
talked
to them.
about,
Yeah.
To contact you.
Yeah,
and
we're more
allow
than
you
happy
guys
to look at
follow
it,
up.
because if there is, the bills should be on average gone up about 20 to 25% is what they should have.
That's
It's-
overall bill. That's-
Overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
if you base it against water increase and sewer increase, it's going to be a higher
Yeah.
percentage.
Water's just one of them, sewer is the other one.
Yeah,
That's the one up.
yeah. If you do just those and separate those, those have gone up at a higher
yeah.
increase.
So we'd be more than happy to look at the bills and see what the reason is, and see what we can say about them.
I saw some Facebook chatter about this last bill. A lot of people's bills jumped up a lot. And they said it happens every January. Do you know any trend like that?
My
rental-
what, Steve? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That in January, for some reason, the bills jump really high, and then they kind of figure out later, like the next couple months, they sort of even out. You know, they sort of, I didn't know because the snow's on the ground.
Well,
they
like,
couldn't
I can speak
redeem it.
personally, at least in the bill that I get in March is a reflection of our worst month of February with freezing temperatures,
Right.
having to drip water, stream water in a lot of cases. And like with our property, it's every single room is streaming or dripping water. So I kind of get that jump for that month. But as far as a consistent increase every single year, I don't know that that's the case,
Yeah.
as it would be with this tax.
Now, this year we did, we passed our water rate increase that went in 25, and then we had our 8% that went in the beginning of January. So, your February bills for 26 will be a little bit higher because that increase is going to be on there. So there would be a little bit increase
Did
this year.
people dripping their faucets with that? Yeah. So we dripped faucets for quite a while.
Yeah.
Last month. So.
I wanted to follow up on what Steve and Terry were talking about. I seem to remember about like what this would pay for, right? So like how much money do we need to make the improvements that we need for the city on the water side and on the wastewater side? I'm with Terry. I remember at one point McClellan put something together for us that did like a projection, and it was, and I feel like the number was 30 million.
Yeah, that's it.
But I would like to have that in front of us so that we know, this 1% sales tax, we're looking at making over time, $30 million worth of improvements. I think that's really important because, it's one thing, to Steve's point, if you say, hey, we're going to pass the sales tax, hopefully it'll take the burden off of you eventually, but we have all these things that need to be done. That's super wishy-washy. We need to be able to say, we're going to pass a 1% sales tax. We're going to try to get a bond issue. We're going to pay for this amount. And looking at the next 10 years, we have to finance 30, maybe more $1 million worth of improvements to our system because we've had deferred maintenance for 100 years or whatever. I think that those specific numbers mean a lot, and I'd like to have those certainly in front of me so that when I'm explaining, I can give real numbers. The other thing that I think kind of tangentially related to what we're talking about is going back to that McClellan, what I'd like to see come out of the workshop. What are we looking at in terms of overall spend over the next projected amount of time? And then I'd also like to see, maybe from Public Works, something that kind of reconciles, like, based on that initial McClellan report, they said, here's all the things that need to be done immediately. Where are we on that? And where are we on the spend on that? I'd like to kind of understand how far we are along in the project. And, David, I think your point to having an education piece is going to be really important if we want this to be successful. Obviously, if the people decide that this is not what they want to do, then we continue with rate increases. But as you said, the state requires us, it's required by law that we show that we can pay for the services that we have to provide as a city. And that includes water delivery that's potable and a sewer system that's going to protect us in the public health. We have to do that. So it'll be up to them, be up to residents, ultimately how they want to pay for those things. But I think it's only fair that we provide all the information in an easy to understand way. And I would personally like to have that because I want to understand it. And really quickly, if you don't mind, I was thinking about your questions, David, and some of the ways that that I think about this is just, and Mike, Steve, anybody, Terry, you can correct me if I have this wrong. So this is my opportunity to try to restate to you how I think this works. We've got revenue and expenses, right? On the expense side, we know pretty much what that looks like because we've had professional engineers out to evaluate our systems, put numbers to that, and we know what that looks like. And that looks like 10 million right now and more in the near future. City-wide, city terms, 10 years is pretty close in the future. So how do you pay for that? Right? If you're just thinking about being a household, you have expenses. How do you pay for those expenses? We have some designated revenues. We have the INI, which was passed some time ago. And when they looked to see if we were going to be able to pay for our expense, they included the INI. And then to back out of that, they said, now you're going to have this rate. That's to guarantee that you can pay for these things that you're going to have to fix. The only other option in there is the $6 million grant, which they call it a grant. It's actually a loan, unless by some miracle, we actually get it granted to us, because I understand that that is possible, but it's not promised. So revenue, we have the I&I, we have the $6 million, and we have our rates. The only area for movement there is on the rate side. So they use a formula and they say, here's the rate you have to charge to pay for these things. What we're suggesting is adding a sales tax. That changes the formula. Because if we add a sales tax, we now have more money to pay for these things that we have to pay for. Then we can go back and do another rate study, which I understand costs thousands of dollars, but if we can do that and save our residents money on the rate side, then we would do that after the sales tax passed and after we were able to prove that we had that revenue coming in. That's how I understand the system. Is that?
One thing I do want to point out, the I&I is kind of technically what they are calling in 605 is a refurbishment and replacement account. As part of that act is that the city is required to have that account and put 5% of your gross revenues into it. How we're doing it now is we're charging that 5%, or we're charging that I&I fee to the customer. And then we put it into that separate I&I fund. If we do away with the I&I, we'll be required still to keep that 5%. We'll still have to do that. And this tax can be part of that. But we'll still be required by 605 to have those accounts. So it's kind of like, is it going to be paid for through, is it an additional money like it is right now on the bill, or is it going to be taken out of the rate of what they're being paid? Does that make
And
sense?
it's 5% of what revenue line?
Based on the gross operating revenues of the system, is what it says.
And is that system the water system? Just the water system?
Just the water, yes. And that was one thing we fixed a long time ago, because we used to charge it as part to water and part to sewer, and we switched it to where it just goes to water. It's a charge for water.
Do you recall what I&I generates?
It'll be under,
It's no 5%.
it's more, it's actually more than, it comes out to be more.
It is?
I think so. It's going to be an 85, 21. It's going to be probably about midway down. I can't think of the exact number. I don't have it with me. Look in your revenues under water. It's going to be 85, 21, or 80, 21, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
80, 21. 85's transit. It's going to generates about $220,000 right now.
Aggregate, because it used to be, it'd been like 110 apiece.
And I think that's a big education component to the public, is that I&I is only providing $220,000 for improvements.
Maintenance and repairs.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
what-
when, as opposed to a 1% sales of 1.7 million. So that's, I mean, if this needs to be on the ballot, we've got, what, 60 days?
Okay, so we do have some updates on that. So originally we thought that it was in May. It's not. The council needs to adopt your ordinance calling for the election by August of 2026. It has to be filed with the county clerk 70 days prior to the election date. So it has to be filed by September 1st. is when it has to be filed with the county clerk. Kim thought it was in May, but I got it clarified by the county clerk.
I would certainly like to have it.
We want to
be
keep
ahead.
going. Yeah, we'd kind of like to keep going and do it as quickly as we can to get all the components together, but that's our actual dates now, not May.
And has your office developed a Plan B?
The Plan B is going to be to continue on with the rate study, or as far as the increases that are in the rate study. And
And so I guess my question for the public would be, if we have to revert to a Plan B,
we'll be
then
relying
water
on
bills will
loans or
keep going up.
grants.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Do what?
Water bills will keep going up?
And I will stay there. And then for any large projects, we would have to rely on more loans and more grants.
Now, I know, Terry, you were on the Water Committee, right? Mm-hmm. Was there an education component that you guys discussed with all this?
Not any plan, but just the idea that it need to be done, whether, through newspapers, through the radio, in my opinion, it needs to be door to door.
Yeah. I mean, I do,
It's that critical.
yeah. I mean, I'm really glad to hear that it's not until September, because it gives us a lot of time to educate the public and a whole town hall meetings or whatever you want to call it.
Well, personally, I think we need to pass, get an ordinance in
Right.
line so we can get that laid out, get the ballot laid out, I'd like to see the ballot ready the 1st of July. That way.
It'll be
if
on the
there's any
November
problem, we can
election.
fine tune it, and for sure have
Yeah.
by the 1st of August.
Why wait?
Right.
It's, to me, it's critical. It's so important because the way things go up, the cost of it, 10 years from now, things are going to be triple. I foresee taking and doing what we need to do, sewer plant, get that, the first 10 in, and then, based on what we can pay or we can borrow based on this, the revenue generated, on replacing transmission lines. Well, probably sewer first would be my deal.
I don't disagree with you at all. I
Because it's
agree
just,
100%.
10 years out, it's going to cost 3 times as much.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that systems are improving with time.
Pardon me?
It's unlikely that the systems are improving
Oh, yeah.
with time. They're just going to continue to.
Well, and that's what we found out with these latest, or what the things McClellan was telling us, was that, the useful life of these pieces of that system is 20 years. And we're at or over 20 years on most of it. So that's kind of, when they were talking $30 million in the future, that's basically rebuilding almost the whole plant because, it's at its useful life at this point.
And these are such basic services, just water and, public health through the handling of wastewater, protecting our environment with, the systems that are going to do that. These are just really basic municipal functions that we're charged with doing. And I would say, the Plan B is actually the current plan. The current plan is residents are going to pay for this because they have to.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good plan. I think education is a really important part of it. And I agree with Terry. I would support a 1%.
That's kind of what we wanted to talk about today, is get the feel of the council's comfort level at what percentage. This is probably going to start being a regular item on our city council, kind of like our water sewer updates. It's probably going to be on there maybe every council meeting just for an update of where we're at, or at least once a month to be on there to be talked about. But that's kind of we don't vote here, we don't do that kind of stuff, but it was just kind of where the council's comfortable at so that we can start proceeding with the ballot language and stuff.
I think we need to have another workshop soon. And if we can gather up the information that McClellan provided us before, is there any other things that we need for Michael to get for us?
I'd like to see that on the water side and on the wastewater side.
Well,
If
yeah,
possible.
yeah,
Yeah,
they'll have it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
what
don't
we're
know
going to
if
have
they've
from,
got- if
yeah,
they've
what we're
got
going to have from
water.
McClellan is going to be the sewer plant side of it.
Yeah, it'll be the sewer plant primarily. I don't know if they, you know, how thorough they got on the water. I think they did.
I feel
Well,
think
this
they've gotten
progressive services that
pretty
came
aggressive
in,
with it.
this progressive services that came in this past week, they're supposed to be getting us a report pretty soon on,
good.
so we may have that by then, kind of where we're at on the water side of it.
So the Progressive Solutions is the professional company that's
not
helping us to understand
Yeah.
the
performance
infrastructure
services.
gaps.
What'd I say?
Or
Something else.
I slept
infrastructure
since then, Steve.
conditions.
Performance services.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
performance services.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's calling it, what are you calling it, something else?
You know.
I was like, well, I was at that meeting, and
Let me suggest,
You were at the meeting.
You
I
had
thought
the
maybe they had a
PNS
different
part
name or
right.
something.
You had the PNS.
let me suggest that maybe, if, what y'all think of this, is that we have a follow-up to this before the end of the month. Then we can have the public hearing in April. And I think we ought to be on an ordinance ready in May.
Okay.
And then that way I'm just kind of set out a timeline, so then we can get whoever that is to draft up the ballot.
We can also get Simon here at the next workshop
Wouldn't hurt to have
to
him.
talk
Yeah.
about, what has been suggested that we need and then what he sees that we need. And so that would help also.
Our next meeting is the 23rd, but we also have that budget thing before, so. We want to do it before the budget meeting on the 23rd? Or we want to have a separate day
Well,
altogether?
it's up to her. Is Monday afternoons good for you?
Mondays are good for me. I teach Tuesday, Thursday
Okay,
rotation
yeah,
this semester.
hey, I'm fine. I'm pretty flexible, most generally.
Just, we could do it like at 5 o'clock instead of 5:15.
I think, no,
We
you,
could
I
do a
think you
real
ought to
quick
make it
budget
4.
for 15
you know.
minutes, because I can go through that pretty quick. We could go through a real quick budget for like 15 and then talk about the rest of it.
Okay. So the 23rd, we'll do a budget meeting from 5 to 5:15, and then a workshop from 5:15 to 6 on this sales tax.
Now, repeat that, please.
We'll have a 15-minute budget at 5 o'clock, 5 to 5:15, and then from 5:15 to 6, we'll have a workshop for the sales
That'd
tax.
probably be all right. 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yeah. And then the regular meeting at 6.
Yeah.
I don't
Good
wanna-
thing, But yeah, most all of us should be able to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that good?
All right, I'll go for that.
Okay. In the meantime, if y'all think of anything else, right now what I've got is I'm going to check into what the tax can actually be used for. Can it be used for paying down any of the debt? I'm going to, what's the money going for? What's our projection over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And where we're at on our initial project.
Can I add to that, or at least ask this question? Terry, you mentioned this in the council meetings before, but, and I don't recall ever having the conversation around it specifically. What are going to be the costs associated with the changes at the roundabout?
The changes of what?
With the roundabout going in up there at 23 and 62, I know that's going to be a major thing. Will there be any required changes associated with water or sewer infrastructure?
Absolutely.
When that happens?
Yeah.
And do we have an idea of how much that is?
That's being engineered right now is what Butch told us.
Okay.
So I don't guess that's complete yet.
To my knowledge,
He's shaking
no.
his head no, so.
I haven't seen anything on it.
Yeah.
We are going to be responsible for the relocation of the utilities that are around the roundabout, all of them.
Okay.
And the way that the initial agreement with RDOT was that we had a $250,000 that we were supposed to pay towards the construction of the roundabout, and then they're paying the rest of it. That 250 can go towards those utility relocations.
Right.
and then we would be responsible for the rest of ever how much it is.
Right. So it's utilities, it may be 250 might cover it. I don't really know. I really don't. I mean,
250,000.
I don't know for, the distance that they got to, I just don't know. I mean, they may have to put in, because you've got lift stations out, to the nursing home and that out there, and so I don't know.
I think
They
so-
take
in
$500,000.
some of the time frame on that is, they were talking to us about it the other day at lunch, not especially that project, but other things. So we have a water line running down the middle of the street, and it's not big enough, so we need more. Instead of putting in a bigger line, they ran another one right beside it. So sometimes we've got 2 or 3 lines that are delivering
That's
the
right.
exact same thing to the exact same points. And so some of that can be consolidated. And that's one of the things that he was talking to us about is, instead of when one of those lines breaks, instead of going in and just repairing that one break, you go in and replace both of those lines with a more efficient, better, bigger line, because that other one's going to break eventually anyway. So there's some of that. So they're having, from my understanding from the last few meetings that I remember, they were kind of having a hard time identifying where everything was, where it was going, and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the delay on it.
So ideally, what you want to do when you do that is you don't dig up the old line and put a new line there. You dig another ditch and put your new line in, and then you disconnect the old line
Disconnect that
and
one.
leave it.
Yep.
I tell you, the gas companies that's replacing those gas lines like they did up on Spring and then on that one of those street, they're just pulling their hair out. The maps they were given, those lines aren't
Oh,
there.
yeah, sure.
Or run into big rocks in the middle of the road buried.
Back in the day,
nightmare.
there was a guy by the name of Hubert Clark that lived here, and Hubert knew where every water line and every sewer line was. And his nephew went to work for the city, and Hubert trained him on all of them. He knew where everything was, and I mean truly. He knew where they all were. And the city, this young man got offered another job someplace else, and the city decided not to pay him a fair wage, and he left.
Wow.
And they took all that with him. And it was one of the saddest days in town. I remember it as plain as day. How could they be so foolish as to let that man go? But
Sounds like
they
we're
did.
still paying for it. So I would just want to put a pin in that and include that in the other things, because that's obviously a related expense that may be coming our way that we don't currently have a number for, in addition to whatever those other numbers are going to look like. But thank you.
But I caution you all, we need to come up with a strategy to sell this. When someone says, what are you going to spend that 1%
Good
on?
point. We need help in that,
It's going to have, you can't go,
how to market it.
it's going, they're going to turn, glassy-eyed and they'll stop listening to you. And they won't vote for it. So we need to be able to say, this 1% is going to pay for
Right.
what? I mean, new sewer lines and water lines, which everybody knows this city needs. Even that's a plus, if you could just say, this is going to pay for those 100-year-old sewer lines
Right.
that everybody knows has to be replaced. So we need to think about that.
Okay, I'm
Anything
good.
else? David? Okay, the next time. Thank
Thank
y'all,
you, guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. I'm glad we